A world war is not just a large conflict. It's a global catastrophe involving most of the world's great powers, organized into opposing alliances, fighting across continents and oceans. Its impact is felt by nearly everyone, setting it apart from regional or proxy wars. The term world war conjures images of total mobilization, industrial-scale destruction, and civilian suffering. It marks the ultimate collapse of diplomacy and order. The idea of a third world war haunts our collective imagination, fueled by headlines and the destructive power of modern weapons. The stakes are existential. The first two world wars reshaped the globe and cost tens of millions of lives. A third could threaten civilization itself. Understanding the probability of such a conflict is essential, not just academic. This analysis will cut through fear and sensationalism, focusing on data and historical patterns. We'll examine today's geopolitical landscape, identify flashpoints, and weigh expert arguments on both risks and safeguards. The aim: to replace vague fear with a reasoned, evidence-based assessment. The world of 2025 is fundamentally different from 1914 or 1939. Mechanisms for peace, international institutions, nuclear deterrents, and economic interdependence are stronger than ever. By evaluating these factors, we can reach a nuanced understanding. The risk of a third world war is not zero, but evidence suggests it's lower than our anxieties imply. We must understand the real dangers, not just imagined ones. This essay argues for cautious optimism. While risks remain, powerful forces for peace have been built over the past 8 decades. Let's explore why the probability of another world war, though real, is lower than many fear. World War I erupted from a web of alliances, nationalism, and an unchecked arms race. A single spark, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, ignited a continent already primed for war. The system of alliances meant that a conflict between two nations quickly escalated into a global catastrophe. Nationalism and imperial ambitions fueled suspicion and rivalry, while military buildup normalized war as a solution. World War II followed, driven by the punitive Treaty of Versailles, economic hardship, and the rise of fascist ideologies. Appeasement and the weakness of the League of Nations emboldened aggressors. Leaders repeatedly miscalculated, believing wars would be short or limited. The belief that war was controllable proved fatally wrong. Before these wars, conquest was seen as legitimate statecraft. International norms against aggression were weak or non-existent. Disputes were settled by force, not law or diplomacy. The absence of strong international institutions made the world far more dangerous. Both world wars were enabled by leaders detached from the true horrors of conflict. The lack of a global consensus against starting major wars was a critical vulnerability. Today, the development of such norms marks a key difference from that era. The lessons of the past highlight the dangers of unchecked ambition and weak international order. Understanding these precedents is crucial for assessing today's risks. Today's world faces new dangers, especially the return of great power competition. Tensions between the US, China, and Russia are complex, involving trade, technology, and territorial disputes. Modern military technologies, hypersonic missiles, cyber warfare, anti-satellite weapons, raise the risk of rapid escalation and catastrophic mistakes. The erosion of arms control treaties increases the chance of a new arms race and security dilemmas. Aggressive nationalism and populism undermine international cooperation and make crises harder to resolve. Social media amplifies disinformation, fueling volatile public moods and belligerent policies. The speed and complexity of modern conflict leave little room for error. Without robust diplomatic channels and arms control, the risk of miscalculation grows. These factors make today's geopolitical environment uniquely perilous. Yet understanding them is the first step toward managing the risks. Despite alarming headlines, the long-term trend for large-scale war is downward. Since 1945, the world has seen the long peace, no direct wars between major powers. Data from the Uppsala Conflict Data Program shows interstate wars are now rare. Most conflicts are internal or proxy wars. Probabilistic models using data on alliances, trade, and democracy suggest the risk of major power war is historically low. Democracy, trade, and international organizations all correlate with peace. Some experts warn that shifting power balances, like China's rise, could increase risk, but the evidence still favors caution over alarm. The absence of great power war for nearly 80 years is unprecedented. While not a guarantee, the data supports a cautiously optimistic outlook. The challenge is to maintain and strengthen these peace-promoting trends. International institutions like the United Nations provide vital forums for diplomacy and crisis management. The UN Security Council, despite its flaws, forces major powers to negotiate rather than fight. A global network of embassies and organizations creates multiple channels for resolving disputes. Back-channel diplomacy and crisis protocols offer off-ramps that didn't exist in 1914. The spread of democracy is another powerful force for peace. Democracies almost never fight each other. Democratic leaders are accountable to their people, making war a harder sell. Transparency and negotiation are valued, reducing the risk of surprise attacks. Since 1945, a global consensus has emerged. Aggressive war is illegitimate and criminal. Violators face condemnation, sanctions, and isolation. These norms raise the cost of aggression and force potential aggressors to think twice. While not foolproof, these mechanisms make large-scale war less likely. The expectation of negotiation is now a powerful deterrent. Together, these forces have fundamentally changed the calculus of war. Nuclear weapons are the ultimate deterrent against world war. Mutually assured destruction means any nuclear conflict would be suicidal for all involved. This reality forces nuclear-armed states to exercise extreme caution. The nuclear taboo has made leaders wary of direct conflict. Even during the Cold War's tensest moments, fear of nuclear annihilation pulled rivals back from the brink. However, risks remain. Technological advances and proliferation could undermine stability. The spread of tactical nuclear weapons and weak command systems increase the chance of accidents or unauthorized launches. A regional nuclear exchange could have global consequences. Despite these dangers, nuclear deterrence has enforced a long peace among major powers. The challenge is to manage proliferation and prevent accidents while preserving this grim stability. As long as leaders remain rational and systems secure, the risk of world war remains remote. The global economy is more interconnected than ever, making major war economically disastrous. Complex supply chains mean conflict would cripple production and trigger a worldwide depression. Economic interdependence creates shared interests in peace and stability. War now threatens prosperity, not just military defeat. Critics note that trade didn't prevent World War I, but today's supply chains are far more intricate and harder to untangle. Modern manufacturing's complexity is a force for peace. Still, protectionism and economic decoupling could erode these benefits. If major powers see trade as a battlefield, the peace-promoting effects of interdependence could weaken. Maintaining a rules-based trading system is crucial for preventing conflict. Economic ties are now a central pillar of global stability. The world of 2025 is vastly different from 1914 or 1939. Back then, empires saw conquest as legitimate, and international law was weak. Today, nation-states are bound by the UN Charter, and instant communication enables rapid crisis management. The 1930s saw trade collapse and ideologies that glorified war. Now, the global economy is deeply integrated and expansionist ideologies are marginalized. Aggressors today face coordinated international opposition. There are now over 100 democracies, compared to just 20 in 1914. Trade as a share of global GDP is historically high, and war deaths have plummeted. These shifts reflect fundamental changes in global organization and values. Challenges remain: China's rise, new technologies, but the context is radically different. Nuclear deterrence, economic ties, and international institutions constrain conflict. Unlike past eras, today's stabilizing factors are robust. The Thucydides trap is not inevitable. The world has more tools to avoid repeating history. The probability of a third world war is low, based on rational analysis, not wishful thinking. Nuclear deterrence, economic interdependence, and strong international norms have prevented great power war for nearly 80 years. However, risk factors, rivalries, arms races, new technologies, and nationalism require constant vigilance. A crisis in a flashpoint could still escalate if mismanaged. The risk is not zero, but it is manageable with skillful diplomacy and robust institutions. The future depends on our choices, supporting diplomacy, cooperation, and peace-promoting systems. The trends that have made the world safer are the result of conscious effort. We must continue to strengthen these foundations. While dangers persist, the evidence points to a world where large-scale war is increasingly irrational and obsolete. For now, the chances of a third world war remain reassuringly small.